friends. It's Coleraine or Coleraine Tarot here on YouTube. My pronouns are they, them. And we are going to get started with this inner child healing Reiki session, energy work session. I do have in the background Malti Martin and Chandra Shiba. I hope I'm saying their names right. I'll have that video linked as well. But without further ado, I want to get into this energy healing. So I feel like right now is a very important time in the collective for all of us reconnecting with our roots, with our origins, and involved with that is the energy of the inner child and, the ways we're raised. Our inner children are very wise to our family lines, and they understand a lot of our pain and why we do the things the way we do as we get older. And our inner child is very impressionable in a lot of ways to pick up things from our environment and then turn them into beliefs that we carry as we get older. Our inner child also is connected to source in a way that we may not always be as adults, and so it's really important to be able to have that connection. And so hopefully that is my intention, that this energy work session will help to reconnect you with your inner child. So I am going to have 2 groups later on. There will be timestamps for the reading portion. Otherwise, we're going to get started. So setting your intention with the flame. Putting the intention for connecting with the inner child, for healing the inner child, for helping our inner child to feel safe, for igniting the passions that our inner child carries for this lifetime, helping us to understand our innate worth, using the salt lamp to cleanse the energy, to help us be receptive to what our inner child would like to show us, to the light of innocence, the purity that we have inside of us, even the rebel that is inside us from the inner child, the one who sees. And I'm going to begin by cleansing the space with a protect and cleanse spray, sending out any fear with the element of water, helping to invite in safety, inviting in a sense of faith, of trust. We're going to start making a little potion, because I feel like what better to connect to the inner child than to create and inspire wonder. So I used these in a recent video, so you might recognize them. These are rose and mulling spices. So just bringing this around to inspire joy, excitement, bringing it into the heart to encourage love and unconditional acceptance, acknowledgement of your true feelings without condition, acknowledgement of the truths of your feelings. So I'm just going to sprinkle this into the cauldron. as well. The essence of joy from the orange. The essence of love from the rose. The essence of wisdom from the magnolia. And the essence of truthfulness from the allspice. Let's see, is there anything else in here? Maybe some more allspice, some cinnamon for enjoyment, for warmth, discipline, and proper guidance. When our inner child is wounded, there can be a sense of not knowing how to be an adult because we didn't have these things modeled to us. There can also be a sense of fearing responsibility because we were never trusted with it. There can be a sense of holding oneself back because we don't understand what it takes. We can't trust ourselves. So we're changing that and transmuting it and bringing into our spell, into our mixture or potion, the opposite of that, which is going to be trust, confidence, freedom, maturity, grace, surrender. A lot of times when our inner child is wounded, there's a sense of control that comes up and we try to control things. But when our inner child is healed, we can recognize that we can only respond to what's been given to us. We can only control so much. So now that our potion is mixed, we're going to sprinkle these new intentions over you. Beautiful. You're doing so great. Thank you for being here. A good amount of inner child healing also has to do with playfulness. Kind of unconditional positive regard, right? We want to be able to be directed in loving ways and gentle ways. Kids don't really respond if they feel like someone's talking down to them or degrading them. So there's a sense of togetherness, connection that is involved in reestablishing our inner child. I'm going to begin to cleanse out and call out any experiences of bullying that have hindered the inner child, gaslighting, toxic dynamics that could go by another word, but I won't for the trigger. But you know what they are if you've experienced them. Calling out these parts that have inspired fear, distrust, insecurity in the inner child, feelings of worthlessness, powerlessness, and bringing them to the surface to witness them with love, to touch them with love, to bring in grace, to bring in the feeling of being gently watched, of observance, in the kindest regard, of feeling like there is some kind of higher power, higher guardian who can support your inner child and provide you with justice, inspiration, encouragement. Just gently coaxing these residuals of these emotions away, helping to inspire space for your inner child to speak to you so that you can be that witness, so that you can do that time traveling work where you connect with that part of yourself that's still within you. Maybe for you, the inner child healing is just about reconnecting to a sense of wonder, a sense of enjoyment. I just saw 11:11, so yeah, a sense of knowing that the universe is there for you, that there is magic, being able to believe beyond your rational mind. So activating the imagination, calling in the Reiki guides of gentle support and wisdom. This is a perfect time to bring in the selenite. Remind you that you are a child of the moon, that you do have guardians that are bigger, who can see farther than you can, who see you as an everlasting child of the universe, and who want to see you succeed, who want to see you connect, who want to see you thrive and cheer for your accomplishments, who also understand and have compassion when you make mistakes, that you're not bad, that your mistakes do not define all of who you are, that your mistakes are actually essential parts of your life. And if you were ever shamed for making mistakes or having challenges or not being perfect, that your inner child is allowed to heal from those experiences, and that the people who maybe imposed that kind of belief upon you, send them love and hope that their inner children can recover from the belief that they must be perfect, that mistakes are not valuable parts of life, because they really, really are. Sending your inner child energy to be able to forgive, to reach through and connect to that unconscious, and to protect, so that you are the guardian of that unconscious mind that you still carry now. That you can remind yourself that you can create regularity, safety, comfort that is healthy, connection that is healthy. I'm going to draw a Reiki symbol in. So breathing in and breathing out. Bringing in another Reiki symbol. Bringing it through your aura. I'm going to now bring in this feather that I found. This is a pelican feather. Pelicans are some of the greatest mothers in the whole world. Pelican mothers would even give their own flesh to their young to ensure that their life will continue. It's a selfless and true act of parenting, prioritizing, of understanding that we're borrowing our present, we're borrowing where we are from those in the future who also steward it. that we are loaning what we have now that we don't own to everyone in the future. And it is this act of giving, of understanding the true role of parenting that the pelican inspires. So just gently sweeping, cooling any anger that your inner child may be carrying, any frustration or disappointment from being misunderstood, any feelings of injustice or favoring. Children can see when there's an imbalance or when they're being singled out for some part of themselves. So if you experience that, it's time to allow this to be blown away and allow the Divine Mother to come through and remind you of the presence. The Divine Mother and Father are always available to us. Sometimes we may have distorted perceptions of what these roles may be based on what we experienced, but in their purest essence, these archetypes exist in the spiritual realms. So just clearing away any of these programs, any feelings of victimhood that we picked up in childhood, any feelings of distorted autonomy, being infantilized beyond when we needed it, any feelings of being parentified before we could handle the responsibility or understanding of an emotional or an adult emotional life. Clearing any experiences related to feelings of isolation or needing to be hyper independent or judgmental of others. Healing emotional cords related to a group, whether this be from school, from family systems. Reopening the heart to trust, to trust, to trust, to trust. Yes, and that is the grace of the pelican. So grateful for this tool. Now I'm going to bring in a pink amethyst to gently calm and redirect the energy to listening, to releasing any residual negative energy. Negative energy does not mean anger or certain emotions, although it can be if in excess. But negative energy in this case is actually probably more well defined as unfunctioning energy, stagnant energy that is overly inert, energy of disempowerment, just almost like a magnet. The pink amethyst pulls this from your energy field. And at the same time, the pink amethyst also sends in, gently calms your energy with a feeling of fearlessness, of freedom, that your blessings are actually blessings for everyone. So replacing these programs of selfishness, competition, scarcity, and inspiring the imagination of collaboration and the joy of sharing to come back. energy of excitement for doing what feels natural to you without the pressure to perform or to make it look good. Just the joy of being. I have 2 more crystal allies, and then we're going to go into the readings. But I really wanted to bring in this raw emerald. It doesn't look all that green, but you can see a little bit right there. And again, we're going to focus in on the heart space, and I already feel this like liquefying of the heart space, an invitation to really surrender. Like a child in yoga, child's pose is the pose of surrender, the pose of re-strengthening and restructuring, of grounding and earth connection. Again, remembering you are a child of the moon, you're a child of the earth. There are things that are so much bigger than you in this world, and that's actually such a comfort sometimes. We don't have to do much to make the sun rise. We don't have to do anything to make the moon rise. We don't have to do much to make the plants grow. Maybe we can support them. Maybe we can sing to them. Maybe we can make art about them. Maybe we can do rituals with them. The most important thing is that we can listen, and children are great listeners. They're great at putting things together and connecting the dots. So the emerald reminds us of the integrity of our heart, the wisdom of our heart, the higher purpose of our heart, what we're meant to do here. Children don't really search for a sense of purpose. And if you think back to when you were a child, maybe you had unique ideas about this world. Those ideas are valid. Somewhere along the way, maybe they changed. As you grew with experience, but now you can have the chance to reconnect with the knowledge that you have about this world. There's some part of your heart that knew why you were here. It knew that your existence had great purpose, and that you were crafted perfectly to meet that purpose. To be friends with the people that you're friends with, to be loved by the people who you're loved by, to love the beings that you love, the things that you love. Just genuinely, authentically. So just sending in waves of unconditional love, waves of divine love, if that's not a term that you resonate with, waves of truth, waves of acceptance, waves of understanding. I think the biggest thing that you learn when you become an adult is that adults don't really know much more than children. They just have an illusion of having more control over it. I feel like if we changed the way that we talked to children, talked about children, thought about our own inner child, so much healing would happen. And I know this from experience too. So just sending in these waves of compassion. Let them wash into your heart space. Beautiful. One final thing I'm going to do is bring in this crystal ball. I want you to gaze within the crystal ball and just notice, maybe not the reflection of the recording, but just notice if this inspires in you anything about your third eye, about your vision. Maybe you can send in a wish. Feel as your energy is surrounded by a protective orb that you can see through the eyes of your heart. That you can remember that you have value, and that nothing that doesn't see this value may enter through this orb. Maybe see yourself as a child. Give that version of you a hug. Notice what age this child is. Maybe you're a teen. Maybe you're in middle school or tween age. Maybe you're very young. I'm going to quickly draw in another Reiki symbol. And while I do this, I would like you to begin to think of a number, 1 or 2, 1 or 2, and feel what you're being drawn to between those 2 numbers. Just activating this across time and space. So, sorry, before we move on between 1 and 2, I just quickly want to bring in one last energy with the Rhyolite to activate that Reiki symbol, to activate the Earth's ability to speak to those hidden parts of you, to remind you of who you are. Okay, so I'm going to get started with group 1. If you've selected 1, this is your inner child reading. You've gotten the Strength card with the bats. So maybe you notice the bats on the base of my crystal ball. And right away my nose is itching, which is always a sign that there's heavy spiritual presence. So I really feel like the inner child of those of you who chose group 1 is trying to say that you've been through a lot of trials and your inner child sees themselves as very strong. I feel a sense of seriousness. Maybe you were the child who was trying to organize things, or maybe people called you bossy or something, but there was something very serious about the way that you approached life as a child, and I think this was due to a lot of, to me, bats represent, relationships that were karmic in nature. So maybe you had a lot of generational or family karma that you needed to work through in this lifetime, and your child self was the one who took on a lot of that karma in a way. And there's moths flying around this person. They've even been cut up. They're tangled in strings. And moths too represent the intuition. You may have been very spiritually sensitive as a child, perceiving spirits in homes, in places, even maybe entities attached to people. And as you got older, it feels as though you may have had to battle some of these entities or energies or influences that were, I'm almost hearing parasocially placed onto you through habits, beliefs, patterns that other people brought into your life. I feel like some of you, your inner child is really saying that you may have had an affinity for the darkness or for the rejected aspects of life as well. You may have felt quite misunderstood, or singled out in your social groups at school, or you couldn't quite understand what other people, why they cared about the things that they cared about, or how they lived these normal lives. To you, nothing about life has ever really been normal, is what I'm hearing from your inner child. And that's really what's given you strength, is that you've never really allowed yourself to be comfortable necessarily. You've always been looking for the deeper meaning or how to grow. I'm also getting the sense from the bats, because they use sonar, they communicate through these really high frequencies, not necessarily through sight. There's something about being able to really sense your environment. But I feel like what your inner child is also trying to say is that now there's a sense of hypervigilance, of looking for the negative in relationships, or looking for these karmic loops, or expecting there to be a catch with any positive connection that you find in your life. And the Strength card really feels like a turning point, because it's right before the Death card. So you've become aware of these patterns, you become aware of the cycles in certain relationships, maybe even identified certain people in your family, or people that you've known for a long time, or types of people that you've known for a long time, whether it be the same people or not. But this is a turning point where you can gather your strength and finally let go of that desire to control others, let go of the judgments that your inner child took on around your capability. I feel like a lot of people like to tear down children early because they see them as incapable or immature, which in some senses may be conditionally true. But when we carry that narrative later, people don't realize that kids don't necessarily have a sense of time in the way that we do. If you say something about somebody, they might remember it forever. So there's something here about time that's involved with your inner child, wanting to make sense of what's true here and now, so that you can unbind yourself, so that you can let go of what was told to you in times where people wanted to bind you and your power at that time, and to recognize that that was never helpful, and that those scars you still carry with you, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's who you are, or that that ever was who you are, and that you can find who you're meant to find, that you can find other people who understand the darkness, like the moth and the bat, that maybe even have had to thrive from the darkness. Let's see what your fairy card is. You got the Raz, which looks like quite a mythical creature, card 52. So 5s, 2s, changes in relationships, but also 5 and 2 is 7. So finding yourself, finding your true beliefs, I feel like is going to be the most important for whoever selected this first group with the Strength card. I want to read to you from the guidebook. Let's see what the Raz has to say. So, for a lot of you, I'm not getting a super strong sense that your parents were very involved in you as a child. I don't know if you were raised by someone else or see someone else as being more of a parental figure to you. And if that doesn't resonate, it feels like your parents were maybe, they had a lot of responsibilities or things that they couldn't necessarily meet themselves, so they needed you to be strong, and you may have been praised for this. So let's see what it's actually RAR. Not Raz. It looks like Raz on there, huh? But it's actually the RAR, which is funny because sometimes I feel like when I'm feeling silly, I'll say like RAR, like as a little expression of frustration, almost like how dogs or cats like will kind of grunt. So I don't know if there's something about like your inner child being very expressive through like noises or animal-like energy. So let's see. So the Rar, wild energy, yeah, pure potential. Once upon a time, there were 3 pink boys, more or less, and a Rar who all played in Brian's son's Toby's bedroom. Interesting, so this is about children too. They liked the midnight tea parties, the magical ambiance, and of course they liked Toby. Unfortunately, the pink boys got too rowdy, and Brian had to throw them out into the garden, which was where they belonged anyway. The Rar learned from the experience in a Rarish way, and it quieted down a bit during the midnight hours. So, keeping somebody up late at night, maybe you had a very imaginative mind that kept you up. But maybe it was actually these spirits that were assisting you. Rars are not naughty or wicked, just energetic. They're also not very discriminating. They like to join into whatever excitement is going on and add energy to it. So you may have been a child that could like get sucked into things very easily. In a way, they are pure potential, and they potentialize whatever is happening. Rars are attracted to mobs, rioting, and to meditation groups rising toward ecstasy, and to any other strong energy states. Rars are a bit like Tigger in the Pooh series. They bounce, they zoom, they go off on wild tangents. Brian hasn't painted a wild tangent yet, as far as I know, but I know what they look like, having encountered more than my share. Think of the roar of a growling dog, the roar of an engine revving up, the rrr of a purring cat. This is exactly what I was talking about. And the R in argh. As I say, Rars don't discriminate. It is up to us to do that. They put a live spark into whatever is happening. It is our choice what we do with it. So you may have a lot of energy that comes from your inner child, and it's kind of about transmuting, I feel like, this frustration, or maybe even like a sense of heightened activation in the nervous system from not being able to get clear guidance or regulation from the people or adults around you that maybe should have been in those positions. I feel like there were often times where you had to take up leadership, responsibility for other children, things like that. Your inner child just really felt like there wasn't support in that sense. And yeah, I feel like there's a bit of a Rar in you that remains now and kind of feeds off of that heightened energy, for better or for worse. So let's see. A Rar in your cards encourages you to be especially attentive to what you are doing with your energy and intentions. Yes, don't get carried away by the Rar's bouncy enthusiasm, but do take advantage of the energy. You can accomplish a great deal with the energy being made available to you. This is a good time. Note that the Rar is not grounded and is not meant to be, but humans need to keep their feet firmly on the earth. When you encounter the Rar, breathe slowly. Center, earth yourself. Be clear about your objectives and then go for them. And I'm getting another secondary message from your inner child before I let you go, group 1, that setting up some type of routine for yourself would be really healing for your inner child, especially if you felt like you had to be drawing from your own strength from an early time. It can be a really good moment right now to set very clear intentions for you as an adult, to be specifically an adult, and to even like allow yourself to behave in a somewhat childish manner within the constructs or within the confines of some kind of discipline. So the way I'm seeing that for some of you is like being able to go and practice something like skateboarding, or what's another like kind of fun thing that would be associated with children, like LARPing where you're like getting dressed up in costumes, even like theater. there's a couple different things coming through. For some of you, even it's just plain like creativity, like crafting, like making something out of popsicle sticks, I'm seeing for some people, or like magic wands. But yeah, I could go on. But there's a sense of like creating a container within that so that you can feel like your inner child and your adult self are able to make peace with each other, so that one's not acting out. Because I feel like sometimes your inner child is rebelling because they want that freedom that they didn't get, because they had to take on a lot of responsibility. And so that may be why you have some frustration building up, because there's a need for play. Another thing I'm going to say really quick before I let you go is that this could even be something like going to an amusement park, or doing something that's like geared towards children, but not necessarily like unwelcome for adults to do, like going on a playground. Just make sure maybe kids aren't there and you're not disrupting any actual children's days. But yeah, like doing something that your inner child would have really enjoyed doing without the sense of responsibility or dysfunction that you may have experienced when you actually were a child. So yeah, that is all I'm seeing for you, group one. I want to thank your guides, my guides, every other being in the universe that brought us together for this session. Thank you so very much for being here, and I will see you in another video, my friend. I'm moving on to group two. So group two, if you selected this number, this is your reading. And when I tap into your inner child's energy, I get a sense of not wanting to be forced to do anything. So I don't know if your inner child felt like there were too many rules, or like you really wish that it's like you were seeing your parents or somebody around you not have the freedom. And I feel like there's a sense of almost like guilt, like wishing that you could help them be more free or find more fun or more enjoyment. And there's just such a big heart of compassion coming through for this group. So your inner child had so much love to give, so much concern for the people around you in a lot of ways. And I think your inner child's like worst fear, they're telling me, is to be like thought of as selfish. So a lot of you may be like struggling with overgiving, or maybe even like struggling with like setting certain boundaries with work for some of you, especially if you're in giving fields or fields where you're expected to be like really responsible for things or making things work. So let's see what the first card you have here. You have the Star. So yeah, your inner child was a star. Maybe even you might feel like a fallen star in some ways, like, because the very first thing I felt from your inner child was like, I don't get this, I don't like want to do things the way that things are done here. There's a sense of like not enjoying or not liking the way things have to go. Maybe your parents like use the kind of because I said so type of thing a lot with you, or there was a sense of like unconditional compliance that needed to happen, maybe even just like from the school system if it wasn't your family. And I understand that, group two. With the Star too, there's a desire to like reach a higher potential. So you may have had like a real desire to maybe even like learn about the past, because there's like this skull here that this bird is perched on, who's wearing this crown, this headdress. You may have been very tapped into your memories of your past lives. You may have felt like you knew a lot about things from a young age, or you had like unexplainable knowledge about things. You may have like really liked to read or seek out information in whatever way that looked like to you. With the star, hunting we will go is what the bird says there. That little message that they're bringing. So yeah, I'm just getting really strong Aquarius energy and like the ability to even astral project. You may have some dreams that you had as a child that you still remember that hold like quite a lot of significance to this incarnation. There's like something mystical about the star. So I don't know if you were like, yeah, just obsessed with like storytelling. Yeah. Hunting we will go. Yeah, there's something like really like hunger for knowledge, hunger for experience. You may have been like really like sensation seeking as a child, like really wanting, tight squeezes, like really like strong sensory experiences, maybe even very strong emotions. For some of you, I'm getting the sense that there was at least one person in your life who was really patient with you and they modeled a lot of regulation, and you're really grateful to that individual for teaching you how to be an adult in a healthy way. You may have like looked up to them a lot or really been interested in their life as you got older and how they were raised. I'm seeing that more as a feminine figure for a lot of you. So grandma, aunt, mom. For some of you, I was going to say older sister, but unless you have like a very strong age gap, I don't think that applies to too many people here. But yeah, your inner child just really feels like a star. Someone who really wants to express their true self, be able to stand out, be acknowledged for your uniqueness, be able to feel at peace as well, be able to explore, take risks, have fun. I think your inner child didn't think too much before going and doing something. It's like if it sounded fun, it was good. Even if maybe it got you into a little bit of trouble or whatever it may be, it just feels like there is a sense of joy here. So let's see what fairy came forward. You got Foff the Footer. This font is so hard to read, but Foff the Footer. And this really looks like your inner child too. Maybe somebody you would have hung out with as well as a child. Someone with this energy. Because I feel like there's quite a curiousness to your energy. This is card 58. So 5s and 8s. This is about liberating yourself from feeling stuck to a certain system again. You may have had to watch a lot of adults around you who just kind of accepted things as they were. Didn't really, again, that message about freedom, they weren't able to really like decide what they wanted. They kind of felt at mercy of certain things, and maybe even on some level for some of you, you were made to feel like, like I'm making these sacrifices for you type of a thing, and it may have brought you some guilt for a while, but it does feel like somebody at least was protecting your innocence in some way so that you could do things differently. So let's see what this says. Yeah, Foff the Footer. So being real, earthing, grounding, and centering. So your inner child, even though it's showing up in this really lofty cosmic star energy, there's something about your inner child that wants you to notice the details through grounding. So let's see. Just as life is becoming surprising, exciting, and very interesting, though not necessarily fun. Foff the Foot Fungus Fairy.
comes along to check out our feet. He picks up one foot in his remarkably strong hands and looks it over for fluff between the toes, smelly fungi, and dirty, untrimmed toenails. If he finds any of these signs of disrespect for our feet, and for Earth Mama, walking on her with grubby feet, yuck. He marks them by making holes in our socks. If things are really bad, he sends mice to eat our dancing shoes, so we will be forced to dance barefoot in the dewy meadows under the moon. So yeah, there's something a little mischievous about your inner child too, like wanting to make sure that the details are attended to, that people are having fun and paying attention to the sacred parts of life. So if you've strayed away from these like small details in your life, this is a reminder. Warning, Faf may have fungi on his fingers from someone else's foot, and if our feet are not clean, both energetically and physically, the fungi are apt to take root. He leaves that foot in the air while he inspects the other foot, lifting it up as well. Having done his inspection job, he wanders off, leaving us standing there with both feet in the air, and Faf snickers, usually confused expression on your faces. Oh, that's like a quote. He's like laughing at the fact that he's kind of confused you. So maybe your inner child was a little bit like you wanted to kind of confuse people, or again, that Aquarius energy, just kind of shake things up or do things differently just to see the reaction that it might bring. This is not a good position for a human to be in. This is a test. Repeat, this is a test. You have been warned. The test is to get both feet back on terra firma. Do not try to do anything important or make any significant decisions until you have come back to Earth. Anything you attempt to do while standing with your feet in the air is apt to not work, if you're lucky. If you're unlucky, it will work, but not at all in the way you intend or hope. Gotta turn the page, so I'm putting Faf down for a minute. Okay, we got some fairy tips for earthing now. Very important. Stroke your feet gently with both hands, each one for 5 minutes. You can also check for holes in your socks while doing this, if you want. Paint your toenails bright red, then your toes say cherry, or should that be cheery? Heya to you when you look at them. And this reminds you to keep them on the ground. And if you don't paint your nails for any reason or don't want to, I understand the toxins and these things. You can do other things to manicure yourself or pedicure yourself. Even when you can't see them, it will probably still remind you, especially if you are a man. So, a little cheeky note in there. So the starter reading says, breathe, ground, center. If you can't remember how, read Preparing for a Reading. So in this book, we'll move on. Maintain or recover sanity by staying earthed. Do this now. Important information is coming your way, but you can only receive it properly if your feet are on terra firma and your head is well connected to the rest of your body. So your inner child may have had some rituals for grounding, for, again, regulating from whoever that individual was that kind of modeled to you some adultness that would be grounded, that would help you be in this existence as you are. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. So, and I'm not really feeling much else from your inner child group too. I want to use this time to thank your guides, thank my guides, thank every being in the universe that came together and supported this reading today. I'm so grateful for you, and I hope you join me in another reading soon.